Okay, welcome to Linux Music. We're going to look at filters this time, kind of a basic view. It can be pretty easily argued that synthesis in general is nothing except oscillators and filters. We've looked at oscillators a little bit in detail. This is going to be like a filters basic so that we can go on and do some more high-end stuff in the various synthesizers. So here we go. Okay, well, here we go. These are the four, generally when you think about filters, there are four common types that come to mind. Low pass, high pass, band pass, and band stop, or what's called notch filters. In general, we're going to think of them, at least as a template, all being the same. A low pass filter, if this is the frequency that's coming into it, it's going to pass all those low frequencies, and at some frequency here that we call a cutoff, it's going to start to roll off frequencies so that the higher frequencies are shut down and you can't hear them at all. Here's the gain, the amplitude, the volume, whatever you want to call it. So a low pass filter is going to let low frequencies go through, and high frequencies are going to be cut off. And as it makes sense, high pass filters are exactly the opposite. They're going to cut off all low frequencies, slowly roll up, and then pass the high frequencies. A band pass is going to pass a specific band of frequencies. Anything that's higher or lower than that band is going to be cut off, and a band stop or a notch filter is exactly the opposite of a band pass, in that it's going to pass the lower ones and the higher ones, but the things within the band that you've chosen, if right here would be the cutoff frequency, things within that frequency are reduced, silenced, whatever you want to call it. Now, it should be kind of obvious that if I put a high pass and a low pass kind of together, I can make a band pass or a band notch. And it's probably obvious that with any type of EQ, I can do the same thing. I could have an EQ set up where all the low frequencies were set at 0 dB and the high frequencies were really shut down. Same with any of these can be emulated in an EQ, but we typically don't do that when we're looking for a straight filter. And the reason is that whether it's hardware or software, a low pass filter takes a circuit, and an EQ takes, if it's a 10 band EQ, it takes 10 circuits. And so it's 10 times more expensive. And similarly, with software and algorithms, low pass filter takes an algorithm, and say a 10 band EQ takes 10 algorithms, and we have limited CPU cycles to deal with. So these filters are very, very handy to us. Yes, they can be all emulated within an EQ, but we tend not to do that simply because of the expense, whether it be the hardware expense in paying for resistors and capacitors, or whether it be the software expense in CPU cycles. So let's look at something in more detail. Here is, and I want to look at this real carefully. Here's a low pass filter, as we just showed you. And if I say there's a 500 hertz cutoff, that means at 500 hertz, I'm going to start rolling that curve down. And I'm going to roll it down to where, you basically can't hear anything at all on the high end. Now, I hope that if you're doing this, you at least understand that an octave is a doubling of frequency. So if I have an A note, and an A note is 440 vibrations a second, then an A note, the next octave higher, is 880. So anytime we're talking about music and frequencies, an octave is considered to be a doubling of the frequencies, or a halving. If I have an A note at 440, then 220 is also an A, and so is 110, and so is 55, et cetera, et cetera. So right here, if you look over the course of one octave between 1,000 hertz and 2,000 hertz, I've lowered this 20 decibels from minus 20 to minus 40. And that curve's pretty straight, so it's going to be the same anywhere along this line. This would be known as a 20 dB curve. You're not going to see that when you go look at the filters. They're going to say 6 dB. But the part that's missing, that's always there and that you should always know, is that it's 6 dB per octave. If it's a 12 dB low pass filter, then it's going to cut down 12 decibels per octave, and 24, 48, whatever. 20, by the way, is crap. And there are no, as far as I know, in audio 20 decibels filters that come out like that. But it's generally 6, 12, 24, etc. And those will always mean 6 decibels per octave, 12 decibels per octave, 24 decibels per octave. An interesting thing here that's little discussed, but you need to keep in mind is, if you say, I want a low pass filter and I want 500 hertz to be the cutoff, notice that in order to make that curve at 500 hertz exactly, you really have already started cutting off your frequencies. You've lowered them generally by 3 decibels per at that point. So you don't hear that discussed a lot, and I don't know of any place that actually mentions it, but that's something to keep in mind. Is if you say 500 hertz cutoff, you're not 0 decibels. You have already started cutting off at 500 hertz. Now, there's another thing that's done, and let's look at that in detail, and that is resonance. Here again is our curve, amplitude, gain, volume, whatever you want to call it, how loud the signal is. Here's frequency. If this is my cutoff frequency, there's a thing called resonance, and we talked about this. We actually looked at it a little bit in the calf monosynth video, but this resonance means that I don't start rolling off that 3 dB. When I've got a resonant circuit, I actually have an increase of frequency right near the cutoff. And in our last picture, this would be 500 hertz. I actually have an increase in the frequency, and then I start rolling off. And you'll notice that now the 500 hertz, if that was this, you really wouldn't be, you know, I mean, look, maybe that's 600 hertz. I don't know what it is right here, but you're back to 0 dB. You have actually increased the volume, the amplitude of that a little bit. Notice this curve, and right here, I recreated it. This distance from here to here is known as Q. So a lot of times you'll see, whether it's a bandpass filter where everything's shelved off down here, and this is the curve, we're only passing one band, whatever it would be, you'll see Q, which says how wide is this. If this is a Q of 1, then maybe from here to here is a Q of 2, and a lot of parametric equalizers, things that deal with resonance and those kind of things, as we've seen in the synths, we'll talk about the Q, and that is actually how wide this is. And that's pretty much it for filters, for the standard filters. And remember, the reason we're doing this is so we can go on to cool things later. And we're going to listen here in part 2 to part 2 of this video of what this does. But again, 4 filter types: low pass, high pass, band pass, band stop or notch filters. In a non-resonant circuit, when you say I have a cutoff of 500, you've already lost some of the volume, already lost some of the gain. The slope of this curve is always represented over an octave. So if it says 6 dB low pass filter, it is you're going to lose 6 decibels per octave. And then lastly, there are other circuits that are called resonant circuits, and they will actually increase the gain a little bit near the cutoff frequency and then roll down. And if you want to see more and hear more about that, go to the calf monosynth. Was it calf monosynth? I think it was calf monosynth. Anyway, one of the previous lectures, we actually played with filters and increased and decreased resonance. So go back in those videos, and it's there somewhere. Okay, let's go on to part 2. Let's bring up Audacity, run some of these filters over some sounds and see what we get. Okay, so here we are in Audacity, and we have a file here. I had originally set this thing up to be nothing but white noise, and if we look at it, okay, and it was white noise. Here's 2 seconds of white noise, and then I applied our various filters we've been talking about. A low pass filter, then some more 2 seconds of white noise, then high pass filter, white noise, band pass, band stop. And so let's go. If you haven't used the spectrogram in Audacity, this is pretty nice. This up here is the frequency, so you can see is 0 kilohertz. You know what the relative density or the strength of the signal coming through. And here, like we said, if you look, you can see here's white noise across the entire spectrum, up to 8K, just noise. Then I put on the low pass filter. I happen to run all 4 of these filters at 3 kilohertz, 3000 hertz. And you can see at 3000 hertz, it starts rolling off. And then up here in the high end, there's nothing at all. Then some more white noise. And here is a high pass filter. And same thing. You've got all the high end. And down here, you know, we start to roll it off. And down here, you've got nothing. This is the band pass filter where I set around 3 kilohertz. Keep that, reject everything else. You can see that rolling off top and bottom. And same thing here, band stop. Nothing in the 3 kilohertz band, although all the other frequencies are present. So let's listen to that and see what we think. And hopefully that's something close to what you expected to happen. You can hear the various frequencies come in, roll off, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So when we talk about these filters, one of the things that we do besides just this simple filtering that you're going to see in these synths is a little bells and whistles they've put on it. So let's see, we might hook a filter to a low frequency oscillator. So this filter was kicking in and out 3 or 4 times a second, giving it a wah, wah, wah. There's other things that they do. You saw how we can mess with the envelope generator and kick this filter on slowly using an envelope generator with it. Another thing that is kind of a synth trick is some of the synths follow the filter so that remember that little resonant bump we saw, and if you hit say an A note, the filter itself will be on A, so that resonance is always following as you play the keys. So again, synthesizers, truly nothing but oscillators, filters and tricks. And so this is the basics of the filters, and that's it. Hope this was helpful to you, and we'll see you next time. Okay, so that was that. Hope there was something in there that was good for you, new to you. Otherwise, check out the versions. If your stuff doesn't look like my stuff, check here first, and then get involved with the websites. There's lots of help out there on the internet. I urge you to explore the concept of filters more. We're going to go to formants next, formant filters, and how they work. But take some time and go play around. Like I've hopefully encouraged you, roll up your sleeves and do it for yourself. Otherwise, I'll see you next week. Have a blast.